Hello and welcome to today's Leadership Satsang. I'm your leadership coach, Yukti Kapoor Mehendirata. I'm absolutely loving the weather here in Mumbai. I hope it's nice and raining in your city as well. If that's true, then mention in the chat raining in and your city names. Is it raining in Bangalore? Is it raining in Lucknow? Is it raining in Chennai? Is it raining in the city that you're in today? Please do share so that we can share the joy of this change in weather. I absolutely love to just peep out of the window and enjoy the rains. You know, the only time rains can be a little irritating is when you're in the middle of traffic. And thankfully, that's not where I am. And if you're connecting with the satsang session right now, then that's not where you are either. So that's good news. And with that, let's get started with our discussion for today, which is another very, very important insight to be shared. You know, all of us work very hard to become better leaders, especially people like you who are consciously learning, consciously evolving, connecting with learning resources like the satsang session, like any course that you sign up for, like any newsletter you subscribe to, or any blog that you make time to read. All of this is directed towards understanding where are the gaps that I have, how can I bridge those gaps, what can I learn to become more effective, more impactful as a leader. Right? So firstly, you should pat your back for that effort. But having said that, there are three silent killers of great leadership that sometimes are totally ignored and missed out. And that's what I want to bring to your attention in today's episode. But that will be on the other side of our meditation practice, our spiritual practice, which helps us to be in this moment, in this session, completely. So may I please invite you to sit straight. Let's do a little bit of breathing, a little bit of chanting, bring ourselves into this moment completely so that we can take everything out of this discussion today. Okay, if you're ready, give me ready in the comments. Please say ready in the comments. And as you share that, make sure you're sitting comfortably wherever you are, as comfortable as possible. Let's just forget about anything and anyone around. Be comfortable, keep your back straight, relax your shoulders, keep your glasses aside if you're wearing them, and take a nice, deep, beautiful breath in. As you breathe in and out, feel the sensation at the tip of your nose, the coolness of your breath as you breathe in, and the warmth as you breathe out. Breathe in again and out. And with the next breath in, see if you can relax your forehead. Let go of that frown on your forehead. Let go of any stiffness on your face. Relax your facial muscles completely. Relax, relax. Relax your mind. And know that right here in this moment, everything is okay. It's okay. And you're okay. Take a nice deep breath in again. And as you breathe out, let go of all the stress you've been carrying all day. Let it just dissolve in the air around you. As you breathe in, relax your body. And as you breathe out, let go of all these thoughts and the stress that's built up during the day. And with the next breath in, you will chant Om 5 times together. A deep breath in. Oh. 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 Uh, uh, Shan, Shanti. And whenever you're ready, just rub your palms together and gently place them on your eyes, face, your neck, your shoulders, and your entire body, and slowly come back. And as you do, please share with me, are you here 100% with me? Give me 100% in the comments, please. Are you here with me 100%? We here 100%? Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much. So let's get on with these three silent killers. And this is not just like some download from some book or article on leadership. I think as I share these three signs of worry, if I can put it that way, it really comes from not just my experience of being a leader in my corporate stint and also as an entrepreneur. You're no less of a leader when you run your own business. It's also a function of what I see in people that completely destroys all the hard work that they have put in their life. मतलब पूरी जिंदगी इतनी मेहनत करने के बाद, इतना काम करने के बाद, अगर आप realize ही नहीं करें कि आप खुद को कैसे damage कर रहे हैं, if you don't realize how you damaging yourself, then that's a waste of all the effort, isn't it? So it's very, very important to be mindful of what can be a self-sabotaging behavior. What can cause me damage? And especially if I can have some control over it, because I can. These are the three things that you have complete control over. And if you don't, it just brings you down before you know it. When I see people around who are successful and are not able to sustain that success, I see one of these three killing them in some way, in some manner. So continue growing, continue evolving, continue learning, but also be mindful of these three silent killers. The first one is ego. I know that you know it. I know that you see it in other people. I know that you don't like people who have a lot of it. But I'm not so sure if you're aware of how much of ego do you carry in your behavior. Because as much as we are self-critical sometimes, we're also very self-forgiving sometimes, especially when it comes to ego. I've met so many people who have no qualms in saying that, you know what, Yukti, I actually have no ego. And that for me is the first sign of ego. It is your ego that tells you that you have no ego. So it's important to understand ego. And maybe we should have another session some other time on just what ego is, just to understand what it is and the fact that it's really not a monster. It helps us create our identity, a sense of identity. But what I'm referring to ego here is that superiority complex that we carry within ourselves, where a part of us believes that we are better than others, or where a part of us believes that I cannot be taken for granted or I cannot be treated in a bad way. So before I'm treated that way, I'm going to, put myself into other people's face and I'm going to kind of be defensive. Now, when you feel the need to be defensive at all times, you're also assuming that you're under attack at all times and you're not. Now, just stay with me here, okay? Just stay with me. When does your ego come into the picture? When does your ego come into the picture? When you don't find the other person being as polite or respectful as you want. When somebody is having a direct conversation with you, you get into this shell. You feel the need to be defensive. And your mind tells you this is standing up for yourself. You see, there is a very thin line between self-respect and ego. And that line has to be identified by you, because there is no theoretical definition of that line. There is no one way to understand what that line is. But if I could help you to identify that line, I would give you just one tip. Ask you to ask yourself, am I standing up for my respect, or am I standing up for my views, my opinion, my thought, my perspective? They're two different things, right? When you're standing up for your thoughts and your views, you are standing strong and adamant and determined about the fact that your perspective is the only perspective. Let's go slow with that, okay? Just be with me till you get a grip on what I'm trying to say. Your perspective on any situation is one perspective, and the other person will have their own way of looking at that situation, their own perspective. When we get rigid about our ways of doing things, also called as righteousness, it is being carried forward through what we call as ego. When you're not willing to listen to anybody else, when you're not open to accepting other people's ideas, when you close yourself to criticism in the name of negative thinking, that okay, any criticism that comes my way is negative, toxic, and I need to protect myself from all the criticism. Not necessary. Criticism can really help us to understand ourselves better, see the blind spot that we all have, a few things about us that are not visible to us but are visible to other people. That blind spot can never ever come into our awareness if it's not for some feedback, and if that feedback is not positive, we call it criticism. Let me tell you that the faster you grow in your career, more and more criticism will come your way. And if you haven't learned how to deal with it, you've got to find a way to do that. As of yesterday, you cannot have a very fragile being that gets shattered and rattled when people don't say nice things to you, right? So keep a check on your ego. If I could, I would kind of ask you to put it as an acronym in your head. Ego stands for edging goodness out. This goodness from within, which is telling you to say sorry. But your ego will say, why should I say sorry? It's not my fault. Or I'm too senior. My seniors never said it to me. Why should I go and talk to my junior like that? It is that ego I'm talking about. It is that goodness that we edge out when we operate or choose to operate from ego. It's a choice. It's always a choice. The second killer, and okay, so before we get to the second killer, why don't we have a little honest discussion here? As I share this with you, on a scale of 10, 10 means you operate from a very high level of ego most of the times. And 1 means you don't think you have ego, okay? So I'll let you decide what that means to you. Where do you see yourself on the scale from 1 to 10? 10 is when you operate from ego most of the times, a lot of times, right? You operate from ego. That's 10. You have a lot of ego, which means what? Which means you feel bad on small things, which means you're not open to feedback, which means when people say something negative to you, you avoid them completely, or you avoid those comments, right? So when you think that you know better than anybody else, all these are signs, symptoms of ego. So give me a number. Give me a number in the chat. From 1 to 10, how much do you think you operate from ego? And this is your awareness at this point. If I could have some more time with you, we could go a little deeper and have you assess yourself at a deeper level to see if this is a real number for you or not, right? But for now, let's just have that number in the comments. I would love to know, and say ego and give me the number there, right? So that's the first killer, because if you don't learn how to avoid edging goodness out, you will let go of a lot of good talent. You would let go of a lot of good opportunities. So the choice is yours. The second silent killer. You want to know what the second silent killer is? Give me BI. Ego, yes. Nobody wants to work with an egoistic person. And sometimes that person is me. And now I'm realizing that I should be more mindful and not operate from ego. What is the second killer that I need to be aware of? If you want to know, give me BIO in the chat, please. All right, thank you. So what is the second killer? Inconsistency. Something that a lot of people suffer with. Not being consistent with what matters. I'm going to spend a little time to help you understand that nobody in this world that I'm aware of or have heard of is consistent with everything. Even the most disciplined people on earth, and they might claim to be very disciplined and epitome of discipline, they're not consistent with everything under the sun. And you don't have to be. You don't have to be. But things which matter to you, things that impacts your life, whether professional or personal, or things that can impact other people's life because of you, because of the role that you play in their life. Those are the things that should matter. Those are the things where you need to be more consistent. For example, when we talk about health, we talk about exercise. Whenever we talk about consistency, somehow we'll end up discussing exercise. We'll end up discussing, physical activity. And why? Because it's important. It's important for you that you're physically active. When you're physically active, you feel much better. You experience better mental health and emotional health when you have a good physical health. We know this. But we struggle to be consistent. Why are we inconsistent here? Why are we not inconsistent in brushing our teeth? Can I assume that you brush your teeth every day, at least once a day? Is that a yes? Give me a big yes, like in caps in the comments. Is that a big yes? Of course you brush your teeth at least once. And some of us have a habit of doing that twice a day. But we do once a day for sure. And that is something we are very consistent with. Why? Because we're very clear about the why. We're very clear about the motivation. We need to keep oral hygiene. It is basics of, grooming. You would do it without questioning it, without thinking about it. Why? Because your motivation is in place. So anything that you're inconsistent with, which falls under this context of things important to you, your life, or other people where your presence is involved, look at those things and find a motivation to stay consistent. Why should I do this? Why is it important to be done? Why is it important for me? Once you're clear about that motivation, trust me, you don't need to go around looking for videos on how to be consistent. And so I haven't made one. I don't think that's necessary. And even if I make it tomorrow, I will definitely put only one point out, and that is to find your motivation. Because once you have your motivation, you will just be consistent. There is no how after that. There is no how. Does that make sense to you? Give me MS in the comments, please. Tell me that it makes sense. Is it making sense to you? Being inconsistent is a silent killer, because you could come up with a lot of ideas, but if you don't know how to execute them, how to sustain that level of energy required till it is done, it's all futile. It's all a waste of time. You get your team geared up to do something, and then you don't follow up on that, and then you don't take it to the next level. You're not consistent with the discussions that are supposed to be done to move from phase 1 to phase 2. What will happen? Will it fizzle out? Absolutely, yes, it will. It will. So instead of just, picking up everything that you're inconsistent with, pick up maybe one to start with, one that matters the most, one where you are clear about the motivation to do it, that one thing, and bring that motivation in front of you again and again and again till being consistent becomes easy. Because you know what? That's the only way to bring that consistency in. Got it? Have you got it? Give me got it in the chat. Please say got it, so that I know that you're clear. We're not bringing in ego. We are not bringing in inconsistency in what matters, in important things that we are responsible for as leaders. And the third silent killer is emotional reactivity. When you have no grip over your emotions, you know what? If I were you, I would not even call myself a leader. You're not a leader if you can't manage your emotions. And managing emotions is a deep, deep topic. We really got to go levels deeper to understand what it takes to manage emotions. But that's another learning which we have to go through. We need to know how to deal with times when things are not as per your plan, when people don't perform, despite a lot of explanation, a lot of training, a lot of hand holding, a lot of support you're providing. You're doing everything in the book, everything. And yet you're not getting the results you expect from people. Can it frustrate you? I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. How do you deal with that frustration? Is your way of dealing adding more energy to people or taking energy from them? Is it exhausting you and others, or is it adding to your energy? A very important question to ask. As much as there are times and places where punishment is needed, how you choose to punish is a very important question. It's a very important thing to think about. Is that punishment going to be detrimental to the business, to the team, to their morale, to their energy? Or is it going to create more, bring in more seriousness, bring in more accountability, more commitment? That's what you've got to think about. So, emotions per se are not negative or positive. There are multiple emotions. We are emotional beings. We will keep experiencing emotions. But if you have no grip over your emotions, if you get carried away, one bad thing happens and the whole day goes bad, that's getting carried away with emotions. You're angry with A and you cannot talk to B, C, D, E after that. That's getting carried away with emotions. When you're frustrated with something that happened at home and you're taking that frustration to office, assuming that people should read you and know not to mess with you right now because you're not in a good mood, it's not on people, it's on you to keep a check on your mood. We need to put our mood in our back pocket. And we need to really put our chin up and do what we need to do as leaders. You know what I'm saying? As much as we could have personal issues, we could have concerns, we cannot make that concern a concern for everybody else around. That's our concern to deal with. And if we haven't learned how to deal with that, then how are we expecting to deal with 500 other people and their concerns? Because they will have it too. Of course they will. I know a lot of people who take a lot of pride in saying, hey, you know what, when I'm in a bad mood, my team knows it. My kids know. They know how to treat me. They're not supposed to know it, by the way. You're supposed to know how to not put it in the middle of everything else and make it other people's problem. You're supposed to know how to get over it. Fine, you feel bad about something. For how long are you going to stretch that? And how are you going to deal with it? And how will you recover from that? And how dependent are you on people to do something or say something to help you overcome that emotion? And so, if you need a lot of help, then you know what I'm talking about. Where is the power of a leader if he or she is so dependent on others to recover from your own emotions? So if you want to reclaim your power, you got to learn how to manage your emotions. Are you becoming a little more aware of what's showing up in your behavior, in your day-to-day life, as I talk about these three silent killers? Do you see yourself a victim of any of these? Do you see any red flag, any sign of concern that, okay, this actually could be a direction where I'm headed? And now that I've heard this session, I need to be more mindful, more careful to not slip into any of these three things. I will not operate from ego, at least to the level of my awareness. I would not be inconsistent, at least in things that really matter and affect other people. And I would not just react basis my emotions, but learn how to respond better. Learn how to manage those emotions and still stay focused on what I need to do. That's called great leadership. And if that's what you are willing to practice, then I would really want to congratulate all the people around you who you are leading, because they're absolutely lucky to have found someone like you as their leader. Hope this was a useful session for you. Hope you're taking back something. And if that's true, I must know. So please put it in the comments and tell me if you have, some more thoughts on this, and what do you consider as some of the silent killers that every leader should be aware of outside of the three I've shared. And of course, more importantly, please put out your takeaways. What is it that you're taking away from our discussion today? With that, we conclude today's satsang session. Thank you so much for joining in. I will see you next week with another insight in the space of leadership and spirituality. Till then, please take good care of yourself. God bless you all. Thank you.